everyone, welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja, and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says Islamabad is ready to partner with Washington for peace in Afghanistan. In an article in the Washington Post, Khan said, however, the country will not host U.S. bases after troops withdrawal. The Prime Minister has also opposed the military takeover of Afghanistan, saying that it will only lead to a civil war. Iran has rejected U.S. statement that its presidential election was manufactured, calling it an interference in Tehran's domestic affairs. Government spokesperson Ali Rabi says Washington's discrediting of Iran's electoral process is against international law. He adds the United States does not have the authority to express its views on the process of elections in Iran or any other country. At least 20 Palestinians have been injured after Israeli forces attacked the anti-settlement protesters in occupied East Jerusalem. The Red Crescent said 16 people were hit by tear gas shells and pepper spray, while others wounded by rubber-coated bullets. Meanwhile, Israeli forces detained at least 25 Palestinians in multiple overnight raids across the occupied West Bank. Myanmar's military says it has killed 4 terrorists in a gunfighting with anti-junta militia in the country's second biggest city of Mandalay. In a statement, the junta's information team said security forces acted on a tip-off and raided a house in Chan Maya Tarsi township. It said some soldiers were seriously injured in the ensuing battle, while forces arrested 8 terrorists for possessing arms. India has reported nearly 1,200 deaths from COVID-19 and over 42,000 cases overnight, the lowest in 3 months. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 27 more people lost their lives to the virus, while over 600 tested positive in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and infected nearly 179 million people so far. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back right after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says Islamabad is ready to partner with Washington for peace in Afghanistan. In an article in the Washington Post, Khan said, however, the country will not host U.S. bases after troops withdrawal.
The Prime Minister opposed the military takeover of Afghanistan, saying it will only lead to a civil war. He said the Taliban cannot win over the whole country and yet must be included in any government for it to succeed. He added Pakistan has no favorites and will work with any government that enjoys the confidence of the Afghan people. Khan noted both Pakistan and the U.S. want negotiated peace in Afghanistan, and any further military action is futile. He said promoting economic connectivity and regional trade is the key to lasting peace and security in Afghanistan. The Prime Minister said Pakistan has suffered so much from the wars in Afghanistan as more than 70,000 Pakistanis were martyred.
The United States says it can slow down troops' withdrawal from Afghanistan due to the gains made by the Taliban. Talking to reporters, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said, however, Washington is not changing the September deadline for a full withdrawal. Kirby said Washington wants to maintain the flexibility to change the pace or scope of the withdrawal. He said the United States is constantly monitoring the on-ground situation and is making all the decisions in real time. The spokesperson reaffirmed that the U.S. forces will continue to support Afghan troops against the Taliban. However, the assistance will no longer be available as the withdrawal nears its completion. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have taken control of 2 more districts in the northern Kunduz and southern Kandahar provinces. A police spokesperson says the Taliban had overrun police headquarters in the Imam Sahib district. He said that the Taliban were within a kilometer of the Kunduz, the provincial capital, but had not entered into the city. Meanwhile, police say 19 Taliban have been killed during clashes in Feroz Nakcher district in Samangan province. Meanwhile, Afghan security forces say they have retaken the Balkh district of the Balkh province from the Taliban. Local media quoted the army as saying that 31 Taliban fighters, including a commander, have been killed in the operation. Dozens of districts have fallen to the Taliban since May after NATO troops began withdrawal. Iran has rejected United States' statement that Tehran's presidential electoral process was manufactured. Government spokesperson Ali Rabai said Tehran considers Washington's remarks an interference in its domestic affairs. Iran state media quoted Rabai as saying that Washington's statement is against international law. He said the United States does not have the authority to express its views on the process of elections in Iran or any other country. Earlier, State Department spokesperson said that the United States viewed Iran's electoral process as neither free nor fair. At least 20 Palestinians have been injured after Israeli forces attacked the anti-settlement protesters in occupied East Jerusalem. The Red Crescent said 16 people were hit by tear gas shells and pepper spray, while others wounded by rubber-coated bullets. The service said that the Jewish settlers also hurled stones and chairs at the protesters and at one of its ambulances. It added Israeli forces sprayed skunk water on another ambulance belonging to the service. Meanwhile, Israeli forces detained at least 25 Palestinians in multiple overnight raids across the occupied West Bank. Myanmar's military says it has killed 4 terrorists in a gunfight with the anti-junta militia in the country's second biggest city of Mandalay. In a statement, the junta's information team said that the security forces acted on a tip-off and raided a house in Chiang Mai, Tharsi Township. It said some soldiers were seriously injured in the ensuing battle, while forces arrested 8 terrorists for possessing arms. Confirming the fight, the People's Defense Force said its members responded after the army raided one of its bases. Reportedly, hundreds of anti-coup protesters have trekked into the insurgent-held areas to receive military training. Myanmar has seen violence and chaos ever since the military staged a coup on the 1st of February. At least 873 civilians have been killed in the military's crackdowns, ongoing protests across the country. North Korea has dismissed the prospects of an early resumption of diplomacy with the United States. North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong said expectations on talks will only bring greater disappointment to the United States. In a statement, she said that the United States appears to be interpreting signals from North Korea in a way to seek comfort for itself. She was responding to U.S. National Security Advisor's statement that he saw an interesting signal from Pyongyang. Earlier, Kim Jong-un said Pyongyang must prepare for both dialogue and confrontation with Washington. Meanwhile, U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Sung Kim met South Korea's Unification Minister Lee In-young in Seoul. During the meeting, the two sides agreed to pursue complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula through talks. The United States says it is in talks with key stakeholders in Libya over the withdrawal of foreign fighters ahead of elections in December. The development comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken travels to the second Berlin conference in Libya this week. Talking to reporters, U.S. Special Envoy for Libya Richard Norland underscored the importance of the elections. He said a fully empowered and legitimate government could push foreign actors to pull out of their troops. Norland added that the pullout will be very important and impactful development for the country. He called on all sides to work towards making progress instead of waiting for next year. Libya's 2 main warring sides consented to a new government this year after a decade of violence. India has reported nearly 1,200 deaths from COVID-19 and over 42,000 cases overnight, the lowest in 3 months. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and infected nearly 179 million people so far.
The World Health Organization has warned of a growing shortage of COVID-19 vaccines in a majority of poorer countries, despite the global sharing scheme. Health Body Senior Advisor Dr. Bruce Alward said the COVAX program had delivered 90 million doses to 131 countries. But he said this was nowhere near enough to protect populations from a virus still spreading worldwide. Cases are surging again in Australia's most populous state, New South Wales, raising prospects of more tough restrictions in Sydney. Meanwhile, Cuba says its three-shot Abdullah COVID-19 vaccine has proven over 92% effective in last-stage clinical trials. Brussels' COVID-19 woes continue as the country confirmed 761 deaths and nearly 39,000 new cases over the past 24 hours. However, the once worst-hit European country, Italy, has decided to end mandatory mask wearing from June 28.
Pakistan has reported 27 new deaths from coronavirus over the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the country's death toll has reached 22,034. It reported 663 infections overnight with this year's lowest positivity rate of 1.69%. The ministry says the caseload is approaching 950,000, while over 894,000 people have recovered. The number of active cases is just above 33,000. Meanwhile, the government says it will receive 13 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine by the end of this year. Britain and the European Union have slapped fresh sanctions on Myanmar officials and companies over the first February coup. The European Union imposed an asset freeze and a travel ban on 8 officials of the military government and sanctioned 3 state-owned companies, whereas Britain has added 3 Myanmar entities to its sanctions list to target the regime's economic interest. British Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said the United Kingdom will continue to hold the junta to account for subversion of democracy and brutal killings of civilians. However, Russia has committed to further strengthening its security and other ties with the military government in Myanmar. Myanmar's junta leader Min Aung Hlaing is in Moscow to attend a security conference this week. Meanwhile, Myanmar security forces have clashed with a newly formed militia group in the country's second biggest city of Mandalay. According to an activist group, Myanmar's military has killed at least 873 civilians in crackdowns on ongoing protests across the country. Somalian army says it has killed a number of al-Shabaab militants and planned simultaneous operations in various parts of the country. In a tweet, the military said its commandos raided the militant hideouts in Sabun, Bara Medina Ade, and the Middle Shabelle areas. The operations were launched a week after the al-Shabaab militants attacked an army base in the Middle Shabelle region with a car bomb. However, no casualties were reported. The United Nations says more than 8,500 children have been used as soldiers globally in 2020. A report to the Security Council revealed that around 2,700 others died in various conflicts. The report verifies violations against 19,379 children in 21 conflicts. These were committed in Somalia, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Afghanistan, Syria, and Yemen. The report also blacklists Myanmar's military and Syrian government forces for not taking the measures to protect children. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has ordered an investigation into gun violence that took the lives of 19 in Reynosa City over the weekend. Armed gunmen fired from cars during multiple attacks in several neighborhoods of Reynosa on Saturday. 15 among those were killed, were civilians, while 4 others are believed to be from a criminal group. Speaking at a news conference, Obrador said he would direct the Attorney General's office to investigate the matter.
Everything indicates that this was not a confrontation, but a command to shoot at people who were not attacking anyone. This was a cowardly act that took away the lives of innocent people.
Reynosa, which borders Texas, is one of Mexico's most violent cities and is a battleground for powerful drug gangs fighting for control. Moving on, millions of residents in Mexico City have taken part in an emergency earthquake drill. It is the annual event and aims to prepare residents to respond appropriately in the wake of an earthquake. The drill began as the authorities activated quake alarms across the city. Following that, residents and office workers carried out emergency activations of homes and buildings. The drills brought back traumatic memories for many residents from deadly quakes that have rocked the capital over the years. The city's last massive quake in 2017 killed hundreds and left tens of thousands of buildings damaged. German company Volocopter has performed the first flight of its electric air taxi Velocity at a show in Le Bourget airport near Paris. The company aims to have the service operational for the Olympic Games in France in 2024. More in this report. The flying taxi, which looks like a tiny helicopter, took off and landed vertically over the Bourget airport with no passenger on board during a 3-minute flight. It flew a 500-meter route with speeds of up to 30 kilometers per hour and about 30 meters above the ground.
We do not sell Volocities to individual persons. In the city of the future, these will be shared assets that are professionally operated as a fleet. So you as a customer can then call a Volocity to come and pick you up when you need it, and you only pay for the flight. And as I said, with increasing volumes, we can offer these flights at the cost of a taxi today.
Velocity has a luggage compartment with a capacity of 2 people on board. The company's chief executive, Florian Reuter, says the flying taxi service would initially operate with a pilot, but it would be fully automated over a period of time.
With respect to regulation, initially we will have a fully certified, fully licensed helicopter pilot, just to fit into existing regulation.
Florian Reuter said that the urban mobility is more than a $10 trillion market and is one of the biggest market potentials out there. He said that by 2035, his company can serve a market that has around $300 billion in opportunity just with their air taxis. Most European stocks have edged lower as global markets react to the possibility of a near-term rise in the U.S. interest rates. At least FTSE MIB has dipped the most, shedding over 0.5%. Frankfurt's DAX has also slipped close to 0.5%. The Pan-European Stock 600 and the CAC 40 in Paris also edged down marginally. London's FTSE, however, has tickled up fractionally. Earlier, most Asian markets recovered from losses, with Japan's Nikkei 225 jumping nearly 3%. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.